State Line invited the Police Minister, James Merlino, to debate his Shadow Minister, Peter Ryan, but Mr Merlino declined our invitation. The Opposition's police spokesman, Peter Ryan, is in studio with me, along with Deputy Premier and Attorney General Rob Hulls in place of Minister Merlino. Gentlemen, welcome to State Line.
Jocelyn, great to be here.
First question to you, Mr Hulls. Where is the Police Minister tonight?
I understand he's at a local function, but the issue of law and order is about police. It's about sentencing, it's about being tough on crime and tough on the causes of crime, and all those matters fit within my portfolio as Attorney General.
Mr Ryan, would you prefer to be debating your direct counterpart?
It doesn't matter to me. I mean, Rob Hulls as Attorney General, I think I'm right in saying, is the one constant in the Labor cabinet since 1999, occupying his same position. And James Merlino, Police Minister, here we are, lowest expenditure per capita in the Australian nation on police resourcing, lowest number of police per capita in the Australian nation, lowest number of frontline police in the Australian nation. Here in Victoria, if I were him, I'd be a bit ducky about coming here as well.
Mr Hulls, if I can put to you, there seems to be a growing perception in the community that we're not safe. Is that based on fact? What do you think of that perception?
Well, crime rates have dropped by 30%. 30% since we've been in government. In fact, they're the lowest crime rates since electronic statistics were actually kept.
So what about violent crime?
Well, violent crime has also dropped. There has been an increase, it is true, in relation to some crime, and that's as a result of family violence. And I've got to say that some of the family violence reforms that we have introduced, where we've now put in place a holistic approach to family violence. We have specialist family violence courts, specialist police and magistrates. More women are coming forward and reporting family violence, and that's a good thing.
Well, where's that fear come from? What's it based on then?
Well, obviously, people want to feel safe in their communities. The fact is that we have more police in Victoria than ever before. When we came to government, we promised we would increase police numbers, and we've done that. We've increased police numbers by 2,000. We've also promised an extra 1,966. Even Peter Ryan has said we have delivered on our promises in relation to police numbers.
Mr Ryan, what do you say to that?
I did say it, and therein lies the problem, because this government set its sights too low. They did not allow for the inevitable increases in our population. They did not allow for the fact that they simply did not have enough police anyway. And as a result of that, of course, it was not until we announced our policy on the 6th of April this year, a policy which was regarded by the Attorney on that day as being magic pudding economics, if I remember correctly. It was not until then that this government was forced into the embarrassing position of having to come out 3 weeks later and match the propositions which we had advanced. And apart from that, of course, we've announced a transport policy, 940 protective services officers on our transport system, looking after our platforms of a night from 6 o'clock until the last train. These are important initiatives that will see 2,640 police-trained, police in the true sense, and protective services officers out there looking after Victorians. They have lagged badly. They've put us in this position.
Well, both sides of politics have announced their tough-on-crime policies. But what about crime prevention? Mr Ryan, do you believe, for example, that poverty and disadvantage is a breeding ground for crime?
Without a doubt, that is certainly the case. This is a whole-of-life issue in many respects. That is certainly the case. But the pointy end of the stick is when these people who have had difficulty in their upbringing turn up in King Street at 2 o'clock in the morning and take a swing at someone, we need to make sure we've got enough police out there on the beat to make certain that Victorians are being kept safe. And this government has simply failed in its task. Old, tired and out of touch.
Mr Hulls?
Well, Peter must have a very short memory, because he was part of a government that previously promised 1,000 extra police and cut 800. Now, where was Peter? Like Marcel Marceau, was he just sitting there saying nothing when police numbers were cut? In reducing crime, you've got to deal with the causes of crime as well. We have great therapeutic justice initiatives like the Neighbourhood Justice Centre in Collingwood, which deals with it in a holistic way. You know what was referred to by the opposition? Apartheid justice, for goodness sake. Like, you've got to be tough on crime, but you've got to address the causes of crime as well.
Well, you talk about the causes of crime. There is strong evidence of an association between alcohol and violence. What's your solution to reducing the culture among young people of drinking to get drunk?
Well, we all have to work to ensure that we do change the culture. It's not just politicians, it's the whole community. Yes, we have given police extra powers. Yes, we have banning notices. Yes, we've given police powers in relation to search search and seizure and the like. But we have to do more in this area. We've changed the licensing laws and we've made it quite clear that we have an extra number of police that go round to areas on a regular basis to try and alleviate alcohol fuel violence. But we all have to get the message out there that it's not cool being drunk, like it's not cool carrying a knife, and if you do so, you're going to get caught.
Well, what sort of programs need to be instituted? Is it an educational or punitive measure to stop young people getting to that state?
It's both. And insofar as the latter is concerned, the punitive side of it, what we need to do is make sure we have enough police out there. We need to have appropriate laws in place in relation to liquor licensing, and on coming to government, we will make sure that the people who are operating our liquor licences throughout the state, and there are about 19,000 of them, they are in compliance with the law. We've announced a demerit point system so that if they do break the law, they are serving drinks to people who shouldn't be there or people who are intoxicated, they will incur points and they will lose their licences. Bang.
Well, let's go to the issue of all-night venues. Do we need so many, and what will you do to close some of them? Well,
the moratorium has been imposed to this government's credit, and we have supported that perspective. What we are going to do on coming to government, we are going to audit those late night venues. We are going to make sure that the security aspects of those venues are appropriate in contemporary terms. If they are not, then we will shut them. And the simple fact is we need to make certain that we have enough police out there on the street working with the industry, which for the main part, being fair, is in compliance with the law, but the two of them together are what make up the end result.
I've got to say, Josephine, with due respect, I do smile when Peter talks about more police because, yes, we do. We do have to ensure that we have appropriate police resources. We have had 2,000 extra police. We've budgeted for an extra 1,966. We have actually delivered. The other mob, when they were in government, promised 1,000, cut 800, and Peter was part of that government.
But so we're talking about 10 years ago.
But how can we believe he was part of that government? Like, did he actually go up to Jeff Kennett and say, Jeff, you promised 1,000, but you're cutting 800, I shouldn't be wearing this? What did he do? Was he silent on it?
Well, you're seeing it and hearing it for yourself. A government in denial, old, tired, out of touch. Now, the simple fact is we've got to the point where the police in Ballarat a few weeks ago actually shut up shop and marched on the office of the local Labor member to protest the fact that there are not enough police in Victoria. The attorney needs to move on. The events of the last century occurred as they may have. Here we are now, and people want to know, in a contemporary world, why has this government allowed the situation to develop where we are now spending less by way of our resources on our policing than any other state in Australia? How can it be that we have less frontline police per capita in Victoria than anywhere else in the Australian nation after this 11 years, $340 billion, and this is what we're reduced to?
Well, the fact is that there has been the biggest increase in the police budget. It's now $2 billion, more police than ever before. We promised and we delivered. The fact is that the National Party previously promised and didn't deliver.
If we can move on from the issue of police numbers, because essentially your policies are pretty much the same in what you're promising there. If I can move on to the issue of growing evidence of a number of young people, particularly young men, who are carrying knives. Why is that, and what can you do about it?
Well, we've got to change the culture again. And yes, you have to give police extra powers. You have to have an advertising campaign. You've got to have an education campaign. The police have quite extraordinary powers now in relation to searching for knives. But we have to make it quite clear that it is just not cool to carry a knife. But more police out there with greater search powers is certainly reducing the knife culture.
All right, can I move on to another issue? And this question to both of you. First of all, Mr Ryan, have you ever used public transport at night?
I have.
And do you feel safe?
I don't. And like Andrew Lazala, the man who runs the metro system here in Victoria, he was out on the television recently, on the ABC no less, amongst others, saying that he, as the man in charge, feels unsafe of a night travelling on our transport system.
Mr Holes, what about you? Do you use public transport at night?
Yeah, I have, and particularly the tram, because I live right on a tram line, and yes, I do feel safe. And it's interesting that Peter Ryan's quoting Andrew Lazala, who criticised the opposition's policy, and when he criticised the policy, the opposition transport spokesman said he's going to sack Andrew Lazala. Like, you know, the fact is that their policy doesn't make sense. They criticise people who criticise their policies.
But Mr Holes, isn't it a fact that the public doesn't feel safe on public transport? Do you concede that?
Well, I concede that some people don't feel safe, but the facts are that crime rates on public transport have dropped by 48%. 48%, that is a fact.
All right, we need to move on because we are running out of time. But an issue, Mr Ryan, that I'd like to raise with you, do you think you'll be able to work with the Police Commissioner, Simon Overland, given criticisms of your side of politics of him?
I have no doubt about that. He is a professional, I am a professional, we will work together.
Has he been too close to the government?
I think that Simon's role as the Chief Commissioner of Police is one that requires him to look after the operational issues pertinent to policing in the state. I think he does that very well. We will work well with him.
Mr Holes, is Simon Overland too close to your government?
Simon Overland is independent. He is a very good Chief Commissioner of Police, but I don't recall any member of the opposition slapping down some of their members, including Bernie Finn and others, who have said that when they get the government, they'll sack the Chief Commissioner of Police. I mean, that is just a gross interference with the independence of the Chief Commissioner. What's Peter Ryan's view about that?
Well, my view is the Chief Commissioner of Police and I will work very well together. A couple of professionals doing their job. And I've never had a problem with Simon. I don't anticipate any problem in the future.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for coming in this evening and agreeing to this debate. Peter Ryan, Rob Holes, thank you.
Thanks, Josephine.
Thanks, Josephine.